Welcome to God's iPod. Hi, this is Israel Anderson from God's iPod. I have a very special set of interviews to share with you today. Last night, Ron Paul, the congressman from Texas who is running for president, the born-again Christian believer who wants to restore constitutional rule to America, this great nation, was in Denver, and I asked if I could have an opportunity to meet with him and interview him, and I was granted that opportunity. And I also met with Carol Paul, his wife, and two of his granddaughters, Valerie and Laura. Now, yesterday, Friday, was a very, very special day for Ron and Carol Paul. It was their 51st wedding anniversary. So let's start with an interview I did with Ron Paul's wife, Carol Paul. So everybody, I'm here with Carol Paul, who is the wife of Ron Paul. And Carol, you're celebrating what today?
Our 51st wedding anniversary.
So tell me, what was it like in those early days with Ron Paul?
Well, you know, he's a very special person. The reason that I've been able to be behind him all these years and stuck around, I guess, is because he always tells the truth. He cares terribly about our country. I mean, he is so worried. He had a huge medical practice, and he came home and one day and said to me, you know, I think I'm going to run for Congress. And I said, why? And he said, well, you know, if I know something that's hurting our country and I don't speak out, then I'm just as wrong as those that are doing it to us. And I said, it could be dangerous. And he said, how could it be dangerous? I said, you can get elected. No, he said, I won't get elected. He said, you can't run against Santa Claus. I'm not going to offer them anything except, you know, their freedom and to know what's happening. He said, you know, my mom and dad saved all this money for their old age. And he said, they have the money, it's there, but it doesn't buy what it said it did. He says, that's theft. And he said, and, you know, he said a couple of his friends had said, well, if you want to run for public office, why don't you run for, you know, mayor or something like that? And he says, I don't want to be a politician. But he said, in the Congress is where they're ruining our money. And he says, every baby I deliver is already in debt. And he said, we just have to do something with our money. This was 25 years ago. And, I mean, he's known this. Just the two new books that he has out are excerpts from the Congressional Record. So they're not things he made up today. These were printed years ago. And he said, if we don't change our foreign policy, this will happen, this will happen, this will happen, and it has. You know, that makes a believer out of someone pretty quickly when they see what's happened. And, you know, a lot of people love their congressman, they send them to Washington, and then they don't do what they say they're doing. But you know, Ron served in the early 70s, and then he felt like he wasn't getting anywhere, that people weren't listening, so he went back to medicine and for 12 years delivered babies again. Then they had the contract with America, and he said, you know, maybe they really want to do something. So that's when he ran again. We had a tough election, but he was elected. And so he has been doing a wonderful job in his congressional office, and he really didn't intend to do this again. But so many people said, you're the only one that will stand up. The others, you know, his congressmen come to him all the time and say, Ron, I know you voted right, but if we did, we might not be reelected. So, and he's always been the type of person all those years. I mean, our kids, we've been really blessed with 5 kids. We have 3 children that are doctors, and one that's a chemical engineer, and one the mother of 5, and she runs all the books for the campaign and takes care of everybody. So we have a super family. We have 18 grandkids and 1 great-grandson, and they all really look up to their granddad. And it's because of example. He never says to them, don't do this, don't do that, don't do the other. In fact, even our kids, we didn't say, you have to be in the house on the stroke of 12. You know, my mother always said to me, oh, I was so afraid. You'd look at your watch and see it was 12 o'clock, and then you'd have an accident, and, oh, she, you know. So I thought, well, if Mother could do that, maybe I can. So we've kind of done the same with ours, and now we're worrying about them raising the grandkids.
We have a Christian audience listening to this, and so something that's of great concern to them is Ron Paul's faith. Now, we all know one of the other candidates who wears his faith on his sleeve, but what can you tell us about the faith of Ron Paul?
Oh, I can tell you a lot. Ron, when he went to college, he started out pre-ministerial. His dad would have liked to have had all his sons ministers. Two of Ron's brothers are ministers. One's a Lutheran pastor and the other is a Presbyterian. He was raised in a family with great faith. They worked a long, hard week, and Sunday they went to church. And they worked hard in the community. They were a hard-working, first-generation German family. They really cared about their country. And this was his beginning. And after Ron and I were married and he went to medical school, we joined the Episcopal Church. And we raised all our kids in the Episcopal Church. They were all confirmed in the church. Our children are all very ecumenical. We have two sons that have Catholic families. We have two daughters that have Baptist families, and one son that, they were married in the Episcopal Church, but I think they're Presbyterian. So they all go to church. I think that what we've given them is a great depth in their faith so that they know what they believe, and they are all believers.
Now, I look at Ron Paul's humility, and he really does stand out as one that really is a poster child for humility. And do you think that his Christian faith comes into play there?
Well, I'm sure it does. Even, back in high school, he never ran to be president of the class or anything, but he ended up being student body president. People could look to him, and he says unsolicited advice isn't any good, because I am the one that usually gives unsolicited advice. But he will answer anyone or do anything for them, if they request it. But he's not going to jump up and say, "Oh, I think you should do this, this, and this." And I think that's why people like him, and he is humble. And he didn't start out to be a doctor. In his family, no one had ever been a doctor. So he didn't think that he could just say, "I want to be a doctor." He said we should use our God-given talents to the best of their ability. He ran track. He was a state champion sprinter, and he believed in taking care of your body. He didn't smoke, didn't drink. Mostly because that the body was a God-given body that he felt it would be awful to desecrate. So but he doesn't announce those things. And when he talks about, all the things that people are responsible for, I keep getting after him for not, he forgets to say, that all these things are all bad for you, even though you have to make your decision, just like you make your decision to follow Christ. You have to do this on your own. Someone can't do it for you. But he has to tell the people how bad these things are. And sometimes he has so many things to tell them that he goes on to the next thing. He's very right to life. He thinks that if we don't honor life at birth, soon they won't honor life at the elder end of our travels in this world. With euthanasia and everything else coming up, but he believes that comes back from the actual right to life. Since we have been not respecting life, the moral of our country have gone down. And until we pick those up, I'm not sure that even stabilizing the dollar is going to help. So I think we have to look to home and family. And my grandmother always told me that the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. And that's kind of what I've done in my lifetime. I spent 30 years with Girl Scouts, once with the older daughter, once with the younger daughter. Give them a little more patriotism. We've always been a very patriotic family, and I want Ron to stand up and say, he did tonight, say how much he loves America. He just says, "Well, that's a given." I said, "No, you have to tell the people that. They don't know that." But he's not one to stand up and say, "I this, I that." He just is a man that has great ideas, and sometimes your intellectuals don't stop and give us an everyday. And I guess what you're wanting is an everyday Ron Paul. And he always has been a great father, a great grandfather, and a wonderful husband. So I can say that after 51 years, not ready to trade him in. So.
Well, thank you, Carol, and happy anniversary, this 51st. It's great, and I'm sure that your faith in Jesus helped you get there as well. So thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Glad to do it.